Welcome to CMO Weekly, the show where we sit down with the world's top marketing leaders to uncover the bold moves, tough lessons, and breakthrough ideas that have shaped their journey. Every episode, we go beyond the headlines to explore what it really takes to build teams, lead teams, and stay ahead in a fast-changing industry. I'm Hayley Clover, and this is CMO Weekly. This episode is brought to you by OpenFortune, the only marketing company putting your brand inside of actual fortune cookies. Yeah, those cookies that you crack open after dinner. They're not prime real estate for your brand message. OpenFortune distributes millions of branded fortunes every month through thousands of restaurants nationwide, giving brands a moment of surprise and attention that no banner ad can match. Do you want to reach people when they're smiling, fully engaged, and ready to share something fun? Head to openfortune.com to learn more. All right, I am really excited. I'm sitting down right now with Matthew Kerbel. He is the global head of brand strategy at Turo, the peer-to-peer car-sharing platform that is redefining mobility. With a marketing career spanning brands like Lyft, MeUndies, and Call of Duty, Matt now leads Turo's efforts to build brands beyond the transaction, driving culture, creator partnerships, and community-first growth in a traditionally functional category. Matt, thank you for joining the show.
Sure. Everybody needs a good hype person. That was awesome.
Okay, you're welcome. I'll follow you around the conference.
Yeah, I'll get the Turo and we'll just drive around places and you can just hype us up.
I love that. We'll get a microphone, a speaker. We'll just broadcast it to the whole group.
I'm excited to be here with you. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. How has your brand week been?
Brand week's been great. Lots of amazing sessions from incredible people that just get the wheels ticking, and then also, this is really about connection. This is really about the serendipitous conversations that happen in the hallways and at the dinners and over a drink, and then of course 13-year-old me is screaming because yesterday I got to ask Jermaine Dupri a question and see Wyclef say a few things.
There's been some good musical guests that have just been in the area. Ludacris was here at some point.
Yeah, I'm all about it. It's been a great week and very energizing, and really excited about thinking through the ramifications for 26 for our team.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So give us a little bit of background on your career in general. I know I mentioned some things in my bio, but tell us kind of how you got started, why marketing and strategy in general, and then how you ended up at Turo.
Yeah, it's there's a few things. So first of all, I'm a proud native of Canada.
All right, where in Canada?
From Toronto, so I'm still in mourning after.
I'm sorry, I'm from Buffalo originally, so my family was also rooting for the neighbors.
It was an iconic and epic series with a very unfortunate ending. But look, I grew up in Canada, and Toronto's one of the, if not the most multicultural city in the world, and I grew up with friends from a lot of different backgrounds and communities, and I honestly loved sitting around their tables, and I found this energy from observing and hearing different conversations and seeing what else was on the dinner table, and just all the nuances, and I got really obsessed with just sort of asking questions and observing and hearing about the things that they were sort of dealing with. And I sort of stumbled upon this potential career path of wait, I can learn about people professionally and think about how to use creativity to solve problems and help people make informed decisions and progress, society. And so I ended up taking some courses in psychology and sociology and entrepreneurship, and I just kind of fell in love with it. And I actually started on the agency side because I was enamored by this notion of working on actually a bunch of different brands and a bunch of different industries and problems. I did that for about 3 years in Toronto, and then I kind of had this next epiphany where I realized, I really want to be on the client side. I want to impact the business and really understand what's going on the other side of the phone, because sometimes we would create these campaigns and they would be amazing, but the business wouldn't actually be thriving. And I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, how do they not correlate? Sure.
What's going on over there? So I went to grad school. My mom's side of my family moved to Southern California. I think I hit a quota when I got into to UCLA. And
that's okay, we'll take it.
Yeah, and then I started my career on the client side in CPG. I went to General Mills for a few years, and then I worked in gaming, as you mentioned, on Call of Duty at Activision. And it was around 2014 or so where a lot of the incredible technological innovation that was a result of both the Great Recession and the App Store. So think about, Uber and Lyft and Pinterest and Slack and all these companies really emerging and breaking through. And I said,
that's
I want to do that. I want to go direct to consumer. I want to have first party data. I want to build community. And I want to kind of jump over these retailers. and Nielsen data and all the stuff that I had been, become used to. And so I was fortunate enough to lead Southern California marketing for Lyft in the early battle days with Uber. I just kind of fell in love with this notion of, just what I just said. And so I then went on to MeUndies. I helped to really mature that brand from something that was honestly a little bit sort of lost or young and immature, quite frankly, to something that was much more purpose-driven, self-expression, creativity, self-confidence, and it became an incredible, super welcoming and inclusive community that it's still known for today. I've as you mentioned, I lead Turo today. I lead the brand, our brand strategy, our media mix strategy, everything to do with research, everything to do with basically how we show up in the world. I have certainly something to do with.
That's awesome.
And I'm really proud. We were doing, just not too long ago, 2020, 150 million in net sales or net revenue.
Good for you.
And now we're doing, just shy of $1 billion. So it's been
scaling fast.
An incredible, all the car puns, an incredible ride.
I love that. And I was just telling Matt that I used Turo for the first time ever this summer and used it twice. And it was like a very seamless, easy, cost-effective strategy for my family. We went to Napa Valley.
Beautiful.
And got ourselves a nice SUV all together, and where one of the big car rental brands was going to be $1,000+ we ended up spending $300 on a car for the 5 days, and I was like, yes, Turo, what a win. So it's an amazing idea, and I can see why it would scale that quickly and in the way that it did.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about when you first came into Turo.
Yeah.
How do you kind of take inventory of everything that's happening at the company and then decide, okay, what's my first priority?
Yeah, well, to take a step back, when I was, so during the pandemic, I was working for a startup, and the pandemic just clobbered it, and eventually I survived a couple layoffs until I didn't.
Sure.
And then I had time to really contemplate like where I wanted to go, and I had a list of 4 criteria. I wanted to go somewhere where I felt like the leadership was remarkable and had an incredible vision and really understood the role of marketing as a growth driver and not a cost center.
Yeah.
The second was, on that note, a culture that was award-winning, that was warm, that was something that people wanted to go to work and loved to work in these teams and had energy and programs and was very inclusive, had the values on the walls. The third was subject matter. And like you and pretty much anybody that has a pulse who's an adult, they've had probably one, if not many, less than remarkable traditional car rental experiences.
Yes.
And I just saw this, to your point, as an opportunity to do something that was necessary disruption, that was necessary evolution, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I love the idea of applying peer-to-peer to this. And then fourth was to get to the question, it was a puzzle piece that actually didn't exist. So brand strategy as a role, as a function at Turo wasn't something that existed. And so there was an opportunity to apply more rigor to think about how do we track our brand health, how do we incorporate, not just research, but really, really deeply held human truths and insights to apply that to our creative strategy, our media mix. And so I said, I could go to this company or that company, but this is a place where I can actually build out a function, build out an expertise, and scale that to all ends of the company to lift all boats.
So
and
cool.
So I got so excited about that, and I still am over 3 years later. And really, when you go in, I think it's just about understanding and respecting, where the company has been and where we are now, and really understanding like our values had evolved. We'd grown a tremendous amount already during the pandemic, and so we were actually lapping some really big growth. And it's like, okay, how do we go from something that has definitely carved out some single-digit share in the industry and has gone from 0 to, like I said, almost $1 billion,
right?
But still, in the grand scheme of things, relatively small and relatively niche. our aided awareness in the US, let alone the other 4 countries that we're in, is still under 50%.
Interesting.
So 1 in 2 people still have no idea like what Turo
Turo
is,
is.
have never heard of it. So there's so much upside. And so I think then the next question is, how do we make this a household brand?
Right.
How do we get people who are, particularly the next generation, who've now grown up through the pandemic, and they are door dashing their dinners, and they're Instacarting their groceries, and they're getting Airbnbs and Uber, and they're getting stuff off of Amazon and eBay and Etsy, all of these peer-to-peer marketplace and communities and avenues to shop through apps. How do we become the only car rental app that not just they, but everybody has in their phone?
Yeah, they don't even price out the others. They're
Absolutely.
just coming to
It's just
Turo.
like, I know I'm going to find something that's to your experiences, great value. I'm going to choose the exact car that I want. It's going to get delivered to me. I'm going to be able to completely skip what I call the DMV of the airport. Right?
Oh my God, so true. That's a really great way
Super
to put
fun.
it.
Every time, especially with a family.
Yeah.
And be able to, in essence, eventually push button, get car. But not only that, be able to know that there's somebody on the other side of that who is professional, who's caring, who's hospitable, who wants you to have an amazing experience, and they're getting paid. They may be making a living, and increasingly we call them hosts. The owners of the cars, we call them hosts. Consumers are guests. We have a drastically increasing amount of hosts, many thousands around the world that do this full time. Maybe it started as a car or two, and maybe it was a side hustle or something they dipped their toe in, and now we have tons of hosts that have small fleets, in some cases large fleets of cars, and they use Turo to do what it's meant to do, to source the demand, but also to support them with all of the infrastructure that we have to make sure that they're successful. So for example, if they want to figure out how to price, we can help. If they want to grow and find more cars to add to their fleet, we can say, what city, what season, here's what we recommend you should do. You should get this minivan, you should get this convertible, this EV, this is what's doing really well in your market. So they're not this isn't just Craigslist where here's a thing, people come together and they figure it out. No, we are really there to support both the guests and the host very deeply.
Well, and I found it really, yes, it was a trustworthy exercise that I could, in the way that maybe an Airbnb or something like that, where you can read everyone's reviews.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that the host is not someone that's just going to not show up with their car, that the car is going to feel like it's falling apart on the road, all of these things. Yeah, it was like, great, this guy has this many reviews. The reviews are about the car being nice and the communication of the host being really great. Awesome, why would I not book this?
It's a big part of our differentiation is the humanity. We have so many stories, countless stories, and you hear this, from Airbnb as well, or even with the most thoughtful of, I worked at Lyft, most thoughtful of Lyft drivers, right, or Uber drivers, who, leave you a note or offer a recommendation, or we've had stories of people that, the host wants to know what the guest is renting for, and it's a baby moon, let's say, and then they're leaving a bottle or a baby bib or something.
So nice, it's so personal. The personal touch makes it so much more enjoyable.
Exactly. So as we think about how do we become bigger, how do we become something that is pervasive and ubiquitous and people want to choose, we have to really think about how do we create that emotional connection such that they feel good about offering their dollars to us, and they don't actually really have to play the bottom of the barrel price comparison game, in a travel aggregator. It's like, no, I'm going to go to Turo because I know I'm going to find something that I'm going to be excited to get. Or if it's more about just getting from point A to point B and it's less about the car, which is fine, that's tons of people, it's just way more convenient.
Sure.
And either one, if not both, are why we're so excited about what we have, and we have such an incredible team that is, by the way, improving the product and improving the user experience every single second of every single day around the world. And so we know that we have to earn the confidence and the trust of people, because this is new to so many people. We are actually still making a first impression despite being around for a pretty long time.
Which is exciting, and also,
it's a Spider-Man line, right? With great responsibility, right? So it's we feel like we are. I mean, I say this not to sound, so monotonous, but we really do feel like we're getting started. We feel like this is our starting line, and we've just started to create some momentum, and the flywheel is starting to crank, and we're like, man, once this takes off, like those other brands that I mentioned, we feel like this can go from that $1 billion brand to that, massive, global powerhouse that we all believe and are excited about becoming.
That's cool. So when we talk about being a global brand and that global strategy, and just even scaling in general in the US and maybe in Canada, do we change, or do you change the way that you're speaking to customers and the storytelling based on location, or is this a kind of nationwide, when you're talking about your campaigns and how you're reaching those folks that maybe don't know about Turo yet?
Yeah, it's a little bit of yes and no. And what I mean by that is we're always, of course, looking for those universal human truths, right? Regardless of kind of where you're from, that there are certain pain points and certain things, whether it is just the need for connection or the need for convenience or the need to feel like you're being cared for or that you're in control, that regardless of whether you're in France or Australia or Canada or the UK or the US or wherever we go in the future, that those are things that our campaigns, our programs, our initiatives, our products, those should be consistent throughout. But that said, we also have incredible boots on the ground in those respective countries, and we want to make sure that the Canadian team is doing things that are partnering with companies that are native to Canada or are only in Canada that resonate deeply with Canadians, right? Or we're doing incredible stunts. So an example was, so being originally Canadian, this is a fun one. There's more ice rinks, backyard ice rinks per capita in the world in Canada than anywhere else.
I love that.
Fun fact, not surprising.
No.
Anyway, you grow up, you're a little boy or girl, and you're watching hockey, and you're playing in this backyard, but the rink is a disaster because of snow and rain.
The weather's
and
crazy,
ice, right?
yeah.
But you dream of skating on that, beautiful, smooth NHL-style ice. And so we actually, a few years ago, put an ice resurfacer. I can't call it a Zamboni. Zamboni's like the Kleenex of tissues, right?
So
it's
funny.
it's a brand.
Right.
So we put an ice resurfacer called the SK8 on Turo that you could rent for 4 hours at a time
for your backyard ice rink.
Come and create this, and we
I
got
love that.
we got Marie-Philippe Poulin, who is the captain of the women's national Canadian hockey team.
Cool.
To be the spokesperson, and then we got a couple other comedic, hilarious kind of hockey-oriented creators. And we just went city to city, and they were riding an ice surfacer down the road.
That is so cool, because hockey fans in general, and I'm one myself, always think about riding on the ice resurfacer. That's always one thing you're I wonder what that would be like. Yeah.
And it ties back to this kernel of you really can rent just about anything, just about anywhere on Turo. And that's really such a big part of our value proposition. And so
I love that.
Yeah, we try to have fun. We try to do things that add value to culture. We try to make sure we're not lagging behind culture or being performative in any way. And that takes just a tremendous amount of really amazing listening. And having frameworks and systems and teams in place that allow us just as much to say yes to say no, and really be intentional about the things that we do, and whether it's the celebrities or IP or brands or whomever, right, that we partner with, that it feels great. And what we just did with Sarah Michelle Gellar, actually, the campaign that we just launched, talking about sort of our new product where we're enabling Turos to be rentable on a monthly basis. So you're paying on a monthly basis, was one that, we brought her back just in time before Halloween to slay car ownership, because that's another extremely antiquated and awful experience when you're talking about dealerships, and cars have never been more expensive. So the average car price right now is over $50,000 in the US.
Crazy.
And then on top of that, you're talking about maintenance, you're talking about gas, if it's a gas car,
insurance.
You're talking about insurance. That's $11,000+ a year. So what was once this part of the American dream, Americana, is now not only untenable, it's unattainable.
Right.
And it's not desirable, because this isn't a house. You drive a new car off the lot, and there goes
it's
20%,
immediately
there goes 20%
not worth
of its
the money.
value,
Correct.
right? So now we're talking about evolving models to think about, well, maybe I don't need a car all the time, or maybe I thought I needed a car for 6 months, but I actually want to extend it to 7 or shorten it to 5. I don't want to haggle and put down a $5,000 down payment
right.
out of the gates, or I don't want to be beholden to a contract that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. If I watch Apple TV and I watch Severance and Severance ends and I'm not watching another Apple TV show, I don't want to continue to pay every single month. I want to unsubscribe until, the Studio or Ted Lasso comes back on, and boom, all of a sudden I resubscribe.
It's true.
And that's what we're essentially able to offer because of the peer-to-peer nature of our product. So we're doing a lot of fun things. We're getting people like Sarah Michelle to help us be not just fun, but also informative. People will pay attention in those types of situations when it's contextual.
Yeah.
And anytime you get Sarah Michelle Gellar right before Halloween, people are going to be like, what's this all about?
Yeah,
So,
no, it's true.
Yeah.
So obviously partnerships being a large aspect of the strategy.
Yeah.
More into the nitty gritty of marketing. What are those KPIs that you all find are the ones that are your North Star in saying, okay, we definitely are doing the right things, these campaigns are working? Is it your strict dollar signs that are coming in, what we've spent and the ROI that's brought back, or, you've talked a lot about feeling and what people are feeling, and is there a KPI of, the energy that people are bringing back and those sorts of things?
We do both. I mean, so we try to be really rigorous, as any digitally native tech company with first party data does, right? So we have our own MMM, right? We are really diving deep into incrementality testing.
Okay.
And of course we're looking at the bottom of the funnel, and we're understanding things like, how is our sticker price changing? Obviously, what is our overarching GBV, like our volume, our gross booking volume, right? We're trying to understand just the dynamics of our marketplace.
Yeah.
But at the top of the funnel, we actually did a single market test in 2024 in Philadelphia, because what we wanted to see is if we really blitz that market, with kind of traditional brand marketing. So we did a ton of out of home.
Yeah.
We did collaborations with Tyrese Maxey from the Sixers and Mount Joy, which is a Philadelphia-based band. We did a ton of creator and influencer partnerships like DJ Jazzy Jeff and Joey the Bachelor, and and then we did events. And so we really were unignorable in Philly, and we created an algorithmic version. The data science team was like, okay, here's Philadelphia, how it's going to trend if we did nothing. And then we looked at the reality of we blitzed it, and of course at first, our category is one where it's not see ad book car, right? Maybe sometimes
it's when you need to book a car, then
the
I'm
trigger,
thinking of Turo.
Right, exactly. And also, this is low frequency, this is new to a lot of people, and it's not inexpensive. You're talking about hundreds of dollars, if not, over $1,000, depending on the length of your trip, the car that you get,
type
et cetera.
of car, sure.
And so for us, we wanted to see if we have a lot of impressions and we kind of continue to hang around and be there in a way that we feel will ultimately break through. So initially this happened in summer of 2024. We see awareness spike, we see consideration and booking intent spike. Awesome leading indicators. But of course, down funnel, the actual conversion, the actual bookings only go up that summer, for Philly year over year specifically, let's say 5 to 10%.
Okay.
Great, but not worth the massive investment yet. But then where y'all go, okay guys, wait for it.
Yeah.
Once we got to Thanksgiving holiday into 2025 with, the New Year and spring break, Philly became our fastest growing US market by a mile. It ended up getting into the 50, 60, 70% year over year growth.
Wow.
And continues to be, I think, our fastest growing US market. And so it was nice that we were able to connect the dots between the things that we do track, which have to do with the funnel, also have to do with perception-based metrics. So trust, safety, reliability, value, right? We track all that stuff, and so the point is not to think about it as brand versus performance, but to really think about it as demand creation and demand capture. And how do we think about that budget as one pot? How do we think about the fact that you don't know when people are going to pull the trigger, and you don't know what they're going to be seeing at that moment. So the fact of the matter is as long as we are constantly showing up, we know that in any given month, give or take 10% of people are in market to actually rent a car.
Okay.
And so that means that the majority of the time, you and I are not.
Right.
And so for us to overcome the amount of money that comes from Enterprise, that comes from Hertz, that comes from Avis and Sixt and all these brands that contribute to the DMV of the airport,
yes.
We, particularly being new to most, have to say, how can we be unignorable like we were in Philly? How can we show up in your feed, URL, and also IRL?
Yes.
What does the evolution of our creative strategy, of our media mix strategy look like such that we can accomplish that? And that is how we will become a mass market brand. So we're applying the learnings from Philly and saying, how can we do that in each of the countries that we're in? And I'm excited about, what's to come. I can't say too much, but we're heading in a really great direction.
No, that's awesome. And I think folks will realize as it's happening in their cities, because it'll be everywhere.
Yeah.
You'll be seeing Turo everywhere and thinking of it.
And there's other brands. I mean, last thing I'll say on this is, as I said, I've worked in a bunch of different industries, companies of different maturities, et cetera, but I am just such a student of disruptive brands. Yesterday, I sat in on Vacation, I sat in on Goodles, right? Of course, I listened to the chief media officer of Liquid Death.
Sure.
I really love following, what Corey and team are doing at Elf, what Fabi and team are doing at Gap, New Balance. And I look at them and I say, what is the common thread? Duo and Crocs, right? And it just feels like, oh, there they go again. They're just always in our feeds, and they're always doing something that's both unexpected but also delightful. And they stand for something. Bobby is another one. My friend Kim and her team are doing an incredible job at Bobby, showing up in really powerful ways and walking the walk, not just talking the talk. And so for us, it's like, well, let's not look at what only Airbnb is doing, because people often call us the Airbnb of cars, right?
I did it earlier.
Right. And I think from a maturity standpoint, I think a really good proxy for us is less Airbnb, even though, of course, the model is similar, and more like a Chime. Right? So for example, in this last quarter, I saw from the Chime team, they're all really excited to post that in this last quarter, more people opened up checking accounts in the US at Chime than any other bank.
Wow.
That's talking Chase, that's
crazy.
talking Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citi. That's crazy.
Traditional institutions are no longer necessarily.
Yes, because people are begrudgingly banking in those places, right? They're like,
that was the only option forever.
I guess I should do this. And so they feel safe, but they also don't feel cared for. They're like, how am I getting screwed here, right? I don't really know. And so I think similarly, when you're talking about Enterprise and Hertz and Avis and Sixt and Budget and National and all these companies, none of them are bad, but it feels like we've accepted this status quo of this is fine. There's a reason why Seinfeld scene, anybody can just take a reservation, but holding the reservation is the most important part. There's a reason why you end up on that show, right? And it's not great in that situation. And so that to us has not changed, unfortunately, right? And we just feel like, what Uber did, to taxis, what Netflix, as I just saw Marion speaking, right,
to cable.
did to to Blockbuster and to cable writ large, and all of the companies that I talked about through the lens of peer-to-peer, it just makes sense that we share and that we enable better experiences. And so for us, as we think about today's generation and tomorrow's generation, digital nativity of it, the expectations, and then also from a brand standpoint, the transparency, the authenticity, the care that people want to feel. If they need customer support, are they actually going to be supported? We have an incredible modern infrastructure, and I feel like we're doing a great job. We can always do better. We are always doing better. But like I said, I think we're just starting, and we have almost 1,000 what we call ourselves tourists around the world who are super, super passionate about this and believe in Andre, our CEO, and our vision, and the entire team that we have. And I'm really excited. I have a new boss, David Corns, who is coming in, and I really feel like we're on the same wavelength, and
That's nice.
It's a really exciting moment for this brand, for me, and I think for Turo moving forward.
I'm excited to follow along, especially, like I said, now that I've used it and am a big fan.
Watch this space.
Exactly.
Yes.
Matt, I can't thank you enough for joining us on the
fun.
podcast and giving us some of these amazing insights. And I'm excited to see how you go and find the other 50% of the folks that still don't necessarily know who Turo is.
You never know. I mean, you never know what you're going to find on a fortune cookie, right?
Right. I mean, gosh, when you're blitzing all of those cities and finding yourself in unexpected places, that might be the perfect way to do it.
No,
you never know. Thank you all for listening. If you liked the conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you can hear other amazing executives like Matt, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.